We got this. We got this. Okay.
Yes.
I'm rolling up my sleeves. We're getting to work.
I'm rolling up my sleeves, except that
You
I
don't
don't
have
have
any.
any.
Welcome to Pros Talking Prose, where Troy and I are going to talk to you about tool overwhelm today. We're going to talk about how in the world we get so bogged down with all these amazing, fun, and interesting, time-saving, money-saving gadgets that actually don't do anything. And they just, they're
Yes.
light flashing.
Oh,
Yeah, why they're
the
so
lights
excited.
flash, things
Yeah,
happen,
but they're so exciting, and
and
then
it
you get them, and
does
then you're like, oh
nothing for
no.
you.
And yours truly, I'm very, very, very guilty of this. In fact, last year I spent. Troy knows about this, but I got really distracted by a particular program that I thought would really, really help me. And while I did learn some things and I made some amazing contacts, it it was $10,000 and it was very expensive. So I was like, did that make me my $10,000 back? Well, maybe it could, but the problem is we work in a different kind of industry, right, Troy? We work in an industry
Yes.
tailored for books. Hold on. My husband is waving from the door. Where are you going? Now,
We're going to get in trouble.
where are you going?
We're going to punch out.
Okay, you're going to take her car because I'm going to go pick up Jeannie afterwards. And Sydney, you're going to have to delete all this.
Or keep it in. Either way.
I love you. Goodbye. Have fun. Pawn shop. What are you doing at the pawn shop?
You go look at like movies and stuff for $2.
Oh, no, Troy, no. All right. So how I want to frame this first is I kind of want to give authors an idea of what their job is first, because
Right.
what your job is as an author, right, is there's a couple things. One is to write and create more creative, like, creative IP that you can sell and that you can offer your
Right.
readers. The other thing that is your job is that you are to run this business that hopefully is taking in money, that has expenses, and that requires you to kind of like bring awareness to that product that you're selling, right? So there's that business side of the thing, and then there's this other side where you're creative. And so, I mean, for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to say that these rules apply to both sides, but we're going to kind of stay in the vein of writing for a second, just so we can keep things simple.
Right. For a second. We will move into business, but I will gloss over that.
Let's gloss it over
super quickly.
Yeah.
With the type, and I do want to say this because Stacey and I were talking about this before we started. What we're going to talk about is the type of tools that you need.
Right.
There will be a post by the time this is live. There will be a post on my website that's going to have some specific recommendations if you want to go there and look at it. But to let you know, these are ones that I would recommend, that I would try, or if I were you. But if you already have a software that is doing the things that we're talking about and it does it effectively and you're comfortable working with it, stick with that. Okay? Just stick with it.
Right. And I agree with that. So,
yes.
So writers, let's talk about writers. Writers have like stages, right, of their work, right? So there's the drafting, there's the revising, there's the publishing, there's the marketing, and then there's the kind of scaling. Like, and again, we're mixing some of that business with creative stuff, but
we're going to mix it in.
Those are the stages, right? So
there's also planning before the drafting.
That's
there's the planning for some people, and we'll talk about that too in a minute. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Right.
Yep.
So you might need different tools at different stages, right? So there's different things that you might
Yes.
have or use to help you make your life a little easier. And just so we're clear at what we're talking about when we talk about tools, I'm going to define tools here really quick, is that tools are things that are supposed to help make your life easier. So I'm going to be
Yes.
that, but I'm going to emphasize that tools are supposed to make your life easier, not more complicated.
And let me piggyback
Okay,
on
you're going
that
to piggyback this. Okay, go.
because I'm going to talk to you about. So I saw a survey recently of authors was talking about the different things that authors face. One thing authors struggle with in this particular area, especially, is overwhelm, focus, and clarity.
Yeah.
Those three things, right? Your tools that you are used should be solving a problem. So sometimes what happens is you get a shiny new tool which solves a problem that was never a problem to you before you heard about this tool.
Right.
Like you literally created a new problem for yourself and a tool to solve it by getting the tool.
I'm
Okay,
I'm
that
I'm
is
so guilty
not,
of
I
this.
have done this before. I am guilty. And but what I have learned is that it depends on if that's something, that problem that you want to add to your list actually enhances your business and
Right.
actually helps you. If it does, awesome. If it does not, if it creates yet another thing that adds to your overwhelm, that distracts from your focus, then don't do it.
Right.
I mean, this is the hardest thing for authors to do because there's the FOMO of, well, my friend is doing this thing
Right.
and it's working so well for them. And I'm like, wait just a minute. Does that mean it's going to work well for you? Let's examine you, your business, your brain, and how you function before you jump onto your friend's tool,
Yeah,
right?
and oh
That's
wow, that didn't come out right. But sorry. I'm sorry. My 12-year-old brain came out. I'm so sorry, everybody. Okay, so but I do need to add a little bit to this because Troy and I were actually just talking with a client earlier today, and this just came up when I was one of our concerns as well, is that you want to make sure that this is the right tool for you, but you like understand and know that you are not your next door neighbor. You are not the other guy. You are your own
Mhm.
thing person. And so when I sit down with a client, a lot of times they're telling me about the shiny thing in the window that they were learning about. And they sometimes will hopefully call me beforehand and ask me what I think about it. And I'm so glad that they do that sometimes, because what I'm able to do is I'm actually able to look at this in a very objective way. And I can say,
Mhm.
listen, you are a 90-year-old woman who just wrote a book for your family, and you honestly don't want to do anything outside of your local community in terms of marketing. So when you're talking about buying this tool that's set up to help you engage an audience nationally and internationally and even, beyond, like, how do you feel like you will be able to capably handle something that complicated? And when you break it down like that, then they can kind of go, oh yeah, you're right, that's not at all that aligned with my goals.
Right.
The problem with people who sell and option these tools to authors and sell them to them is that they are trying to, like Troy said, point out you have this big problem, when they don't know that author on that micro level. And so they
Right.
can't look at that author's individual needs or goals and know that that is really what they're doing. And unless you're an author that really has that honed in and figured out and is willing to ignore the distractions, it is very hard to resist those emotional lizard brain type pitches that they throw at you. So you need to make sure
Yes.
that you know yourself and your plan and your goals very well before you go forward with any kind of purchases or choices when it comes to these tools. So I'm pointing these all out
Yes.
before we get into the next phase of each of these,
Right.
rules, but like know thyself is probably the most important rule of this entire process.
Right. So let me I'm going to give a real life client example from this week, because
Right.
if you guys have heard me talk about planning software before,
Mm-hmm.
you know that one of my least favorite planning softwares is a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I hate Excel spreadsheets. I'm not a fan of Google Sheets, but I have in recent times, because of how AI operates, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But because of that, I've become a fan of kind of databases and the fact that I can use spreadsheets as a vehicle to get things where I want to go. Well, but I'm working with this editing client, I'm coaching her through a revision. And so I asked her to do some homework
Oh,
and to
yeah.
show me the structure of her novel. She did an amazing
She did.
job
She color coded it. It was
in a
beautiful.
spreadsheet. Okay. So then
It's just
her and I have been
information for you,
working.
though, in her defense.
Right. It's just information for me and her. But the primary person that it's important for that information to be clear for
It's
is
her.
for her.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and even though I normally don't like spreadsheets the way she arranged it, I was like, actually, this makes sense. Now, the next thing she did was, so we're working on some guided revisions, chapter by chapter,
Mm-hmm.
which in her case is exactly what she needs. She's worked with other editors before. No one has approached it this way
Mm-hmm.
because I'm weird, but also because this is what she
This is what
needs,
she
right?
needs. Yeah.
This is what this individual client needs. So there are lots of ways for co-authors and authors and editors to work together when you're doing a chapter by chapter thing. One of my least favorite ways of doing that is Google Sheets. Is
Mm.
Google Docs.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what she sent me of chapter one?
She Googled Doc.
A Google Doc. Now, am I going to take the time at this point in her delicate revision process
To
to say, no, let me introduce you to a couple of new tools?
oh no.
No. Why? Because our priority right now is revising her book. Can I advise her later on ways to perhaps make her process a little more efficient and make different ways for us to work together?
Maybe for the
Yes,
next
I
book.
can. Maybe
Mhm.
for book two.
Right.
Maybe when we're between this urgent revision process and the next book, when she's
Mhm.
writing the next book, we can talk about ways to do that. But we're not going to talk about them right now. The reason we're not is because this system is working for her.
Right.
So if you have a system that's working for you and someone comes along and says, you must try this tool because this tool will revolutionize and change your writing life, do not do it in the middle of a project that you are already making progress on. Now, if you are stalled and not making progress, a new tool might be helpful and might even be a new solution for you. But if you're not stalled, you don't need it. So stop the madness. Don't do it. So that's an example of like planning and writing software that, like, I as an editor, I'm not really a fan of those two things, but I know how to work in them, and I absolutely will in this case, not because it's comfortable for me, but because this is what my client needs to move forward.
And
And she's
just
moving forward more rapidly than probably
yeah,
90% of the clients that I've worked with on a coaching basis.
she's
So
really
am I
she's
going to stop
really
that
good. Yeah.
momentum? No,
Because we were
absolutely
we were
not.
this close to formatting this thing and getting it. We were like just about to do a copy edit, and yeah, we kind of just put the brakes on everything because of these. Because this is a really great
Yeah,
story, but like Troy said, it's like
yeah.
those things where we're not gonna take the time in the middle of this project, because what that would do is just frustrate her creative process, right?
Hmm.
And that's what you don't want
Yeah.
to do. That's the worst thing to do. And honestly, and this has happened to me too. I mean, where I've gotten into this is like what not to do, but I was in the middle of like putting my course up, and I was like, I thought I wanted to go on to Thinkific, and I was looking at Thinkific, and there was all these shiny bells and whistles, and I was like, I was dropping like plugins like crazy. I was like, ooh, I like this feature. Ooh, I like this little confetti feature. Ooh, I like
Yep.
this. I
Yep.
like this.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
this. And sure enough, pretty soon I had so much stuff, and I didn't know how to make any of it work that I couldn't even get my course up. I couldn't get the learning, and I had clients waiting. Stacey, I need this lesson. I need to learn how to get my ISBNs. Stacey, could you tell me how to get my copyright? Yes, I can. Yes, let me get this, and I was like trying, but I was like busy fighting with like how to make confetti
Hmm.
pop up when they finished a lesson. Like not the time, folks.
Well,
So I had to
and
I had to scale it back,
yeah,
and I had to
and
realize,
to be
okay,
fair,
functionality wise, like what
like
works.
so, and to be fair, another part of this is like what you need is what software developers call a minimum viable product. And what
Right,
that means
exactly.
to you is one that works for you for what you need right now.
Right now.
Because planning for the future is great, but you also need to take care of what you need to take of now. You need to take care of now. You need to be able to do both.
Right.
So, and the other part of it that I just want to point out when I'm talking about planning software at this time is some of you are discovery writers and you use planning software in the revision process. In fact, that is this client right here. She
Mm-hmm.
has discovery written several drafts, which has gotten her in a little bit of trouble, which is another topic we can talk about another day. But what we're doing now is we're reverse planning her manuscript, and it has got her hyped and excited. And the other day, Saturday, we were on a call and we came up with the last line for her book. Dude, it's going to give you goosebumps when you hear it. Anyway,
Okay.
but it's
You
absolutely
can't drop it
amazing.
here because
No,
yeah,
I'm
because
not going to drop it here.
I'm excited. I
But
love this
the
story so
point of it
much.
is what we're doing is we're deconstructing and planning the story in the revision process. Okay. Some of you work that way. That's okay. So you do not need a planning software
Right.
until you're ready for it in the revision process. So don't sit there when you're halfway through your discovery draft going, what am I going to plan this in? What software do I need? Chill, dude. Relax. We'll help you with that when you get to that point, right?
Right.
But don't jump ahead of yourself so far that you're learning a software that you don't even need to use right
Right.
now.
Right.
Like that's another rule. Just don't do that.
Right.
Okay. Don't do it.
So I'm going to say that, while we're talking about planning software and or any software in the process, I think that it's a really good idea to kind of stick with Troy on like throughout this podcast. We'll have Troy hit on like the different stages and the things that we could talk about. While he's doing that, I'm going to also give you some rules to live by. Okay. This first rule is going to be called the apply the 3-tool rule. Okay. And
Yes.
so I want you to look at your core tools. Everything that else is going to be kind of like fringe, extra, like my little confetti popper, right? Like it's temporary, it's optional, it's not essential to work. One of my core tools, 3 core tools, is a tool that is where you can put the manuscript in digitally. You can type it into the computer because I don't know if there's editors out there that are still reading paper. If you are an editor,
I do.
do you?
Yeah, I will charge you double my normal rate to edit your manuscript on paper.
I won't
Now,
do it.
when I say I still do, it has probably been 9 years since anybody has taken me up
Yeah.
on that offer.
Yeah.
Most of the time because they don't want to pay double, but also because you eventually have to translate that to pixels anyway. So
Right.
you're
So
really
it
making extra work for yourself and
it,
paying extra money.
it just
So
needs
don't do it.
it just
Don't do it.
just
Needs to
write
be
it.
digital.
Just
Just
digital.
digital.
So you need a tool to type that paperwork, type that in. I have clients that have used Pages because it's free and it's already on their iPhones and
Mhm.
Apple devices. I have clients that have used Google, right? Google page or Google Sheets or Google
Docs.
Docs.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah,
then I will say I hate both of those. And the reason I hate both of them is because there's what Troy has labeled, and I'm sure it's labeled by others, but he's the one that taught me this term is legacy programming or legacy
legacy
coding.
formatting.
Yeah, that's
Legacy
inside of
coding.
there. So what that means is that when I take that manuscript from those two programs, there is a lot of formatting garbage that is built into the coding, and it messes things up when I move it over, because I need a clean document when I move it over to a formatting software like InDesign or like Vellum. So it needs to be clean. So I always have to take those documents and I put them into Word. If you are already using Word, this is probably at this time, it is probably the most accepted universally software when it comes to an editor and how they choose to edit, because they like to edit in there. There's some really, I mean, Word is probably just the most basic but easiest way to kind of like get those marks and those edits done. So Word is probably your drafting like gold star. But like I said, people will draft in Scrivener, people will draft in Atticus. Like there's a lot of different tools out
well, and so one thing I was going to mention related to that is, so you need a writing software like Stacey's talking about
Yeah.
this is one of your core software that you put things in digitally. The only requirement that I would say is nearly universal, it's not 100% universal, but it's nearly universal, is it needs to have a feature where you can export cleanly to Word. And what that means is
Cleanly.
not copy and paste. That
Yes.
means do what's called a clean export that comes out without that legacy coding. So one of the recent examples,
Don't call out names.
I'm not going to call out the name. It'll be on my website if you want to hear about it, but I tested their software, right? And I like their software. And one of the things I like about it is I get a clean export into Word docx format.
That's
Now, if
nice.
you don't want to use Microsoft programs, you're a part of the groups that are just said, I'm not giving my money to big companies anymore. There are alternatives, but your editor may prefer and move you towards using Microsoft Word, at least for the editing process.
Right.
And if you are one of those people who is opposed to those big companies, you definitely should not be using Google Docs. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole about that,
Especially right now.
those particular things right now.
There's
So
just
I'm not going to go
there's a
down about.
lawsuit. There's just a lawsuit going on right now. So just
Yeah.
FYI. But
And then
anyway,
there's some Apple things and things like that. So anyway, just don't.
just
Here's the thing: if you sometimes we have to pick a tool that may not be our favorite, but that is the tool that is the industry standard that everybody's using right now. Will that industry standard change?
probably.
Yes. When I first started writing, WordPerfect 5 was the definitive software for word processing. But there are people that are listening to this that do
I
not
used to
know
use
what
it.
WordPerfect 5 is.
It was
Okay, that's
amazing.
okay.
It was
It
amazing.
was amazing. It was
Publisher.
amazing software.
People
And
were using Publisher.
brother even had their own proprietary word processing software, and I had a brother word processor. That was all this computer did, was process words. It was it was beautiful in some ways, because one of the things authors struggle with is
Distractions.
that overwhelm and distraction away from focus. So if you can stay focused on your writing, so a lot of times, like, there are some good online writing tools, but just understand, because they're online, distractions are merely a quick click away.
Yeah.
It is for most authors, it is better if you have a tool that works offline so you can shut off your Wi-Fi and keep away from being distracted.
Good idea.
That's all I'm going to preach
Good
on
idea.
that. I have my own favorite writing software. I'll call that out in an article on my website. I won't call it out here, but I will say that the ability to use a software offline is really important to me.
Yeah.
for a
So
number of reasons.
again,
But,
this is going to be one of those things,
you
like
know,
what works for you.
mhm.
But yeah. So then the
So,
second tool, that was the first tool. So the word processing, right? Like the way
oh yes,
you're
and I
going to
wanted to mention one other thing
okay, go ahead.
on in that is that can be AI assisted or not, depending upon your particular personal beliefs on AI and how you want to use AI in your drafting and
Right.
writing process.
Right.
But ideally, your ideal tool will have the ability to turn off AI
Yes,
features.
and Word
Even if they
can. Just
exist, and
FY,
in Word, you can
you
turn off
can
the
turn off.
AI features. Good luck doing that in some of the other software that's out there, but in Word you can. In RaptorWrite even, which is an AI, really a writing software that's designed to use AI assistance, a part of it, and it's free. Oh, I called out a name. Crap.
That's okay.
Anyway, but that particular one, you can also shut off AI features. You do
That's
not
great.
have to use AI. So tools where you can turn that off are really ideal regardless of your stance on AI. And there are times when you should be using AI and times when you should not. And we
And
can talk
yeah,
about that another
that's
time.
another time.
But having that as an option on a lot of this type of software that we're going to talk about is actually, in some ways, a benefit.
Right.
Okay, there are some
Exactly.
things that it can help you with at different parts in the drafting and editing
Yeah, in
process.
the process of the writing.
So yeah, yeah.
So
Anyway,
aside from your word processor, you need some kind of way to keep notes, right?
mhm. You
So
do.
the
I call
second,
this your writing brain.
yeah,
Writing brain and series Bible,
right,
let's say.
right. So there are different ways you can do this. And like I said, there's different tools. Word is not ideal for this, guys. It is not the best way to organize your notes. Um, so I wouldn't recommend that Word would be your tool for both of these. That's why I'm listing them separately because it is
Hmm.
something different. So yours truly has tried numerous times to have a notes system that is digital. I live in a very digital world. You should see my computer right now. I have like 7 or 8 windows open over here. I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tools open on my computer behind Zoom. I'm using stuff all the time. But the thing is, folks, nothing beats a notepad for me. And Troy has tried to convert me. So I'm right. So sometimes old school works best for this, but this is your brain. This is where you can do the dump and stay on top of those little, we talked about sparks last week, those sparks that maybe come in, or those little things where for example, like today when I was doing some bookmarks for Troy and doing some business cards for another client and so on. I needed just little notes. Like I needed measurements. I wrote them on the back of an envelope. Like, just, I just wrote them down, write them down. So sometimes it's just whatever works for you. But that note system is something that you need to be able to access and then find information in. That's the other thing. So
Right.
you got to be able to get back in there and find the information that you wrote down. So that's
Well,
the second part of that.
so I'm going to throw some, without throwing specific software out there, hopefully, although I may slip once or twice, but I'm going to try not to. Okay. The certain things I have physical notebooks for, like to-do lists, things like that. I actually have a physical calendar and a digital calendar. I have a 4-month calendar up on my wall that you can't see in this view, right? But it's over here. And I put conferences and important events and things on that calendar so I can physically see them. So it's not just an alert that comes up on my computer, right? Good idea, right? That's great.
Good idea.
But there are some things like your series Bible that putting that in a paper notebook,
Oh my
even though
gosh.
that's the way we used to do it with colored tabs, and don't get me started on the way we used to do it. We have modern tools that can enable you to do that. Now, some of those are AI enabled, some are not. But what I will say is that a database program where you can put things like your covers, your blurbs, your book manuscripts, all of that stuff so that you can put it in a place where you can search that information and where you can easily access it. I have a database built that has all of my book descriptions and the manuscripts and the covers and the retail links to all of them, along with some data on social media posts and things like that. So what I can do is I can pull information from that using a tool and create other information. But I can also look up my series Bible and see, okay, what color was that character's eyes? What did they look like? What was their personality like? What was their description like? So if I'm writing a series, I can go back and look at that. Or I can look at, like in one of the series that I'm revising right now, there were like 3 Pauls in a total of 16 books.
Oh my gosh,
Okay,
that's
we don't need another Paul.
very
You
cute.
we don't need another Paul or another Mary,
Right.
right? Even though they're completely separate stories that can stand alone. Like it's a recurring name. Was that the Paul from book 3? No, it was not. This is a brand new Paul.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
so like different things like that related to your series Bible. What I call that is your writer brain. And this is where you put as much of the information about your books and characters and stuff as you can, so it's all searchable in one
Good.
location.
That's a good idea.
Now, I like these tools to be at least somewhat AI enabled because I like the search and report capability that I can do. But that is not essential. If you don't like to use AI and you don't want to use AI, most of those tools you have the ability to turn AI off or just not use it. Just don't use it in that particular program. Okay. That's it. It just works. So, yeah. So, but I use databases for that.
Databases
Digital
are good.
databases.
That's a good idea. I know that
But we tried last year a really cool calendar digital to-do list that was supposed to schedule your life and make your life so much easier.
None of us,
Let me just tell you guys, it didn't work.
the 3 of us, we just couldn't get between the 3 of us, none of us, of us, we just couldn't do it.
I couldn't get it to work because the problem was it
wasn't that
we're in a
the tool
different
worked.
industry.
Yeah, the tool worked. It wasn't,
but
it was just us that we couldn't adapt.
It did not resonate with my brain at all because the way it wanted to schedule events, I don't schedule events that way.
Right.
So it just didn't, anyway. But so all that being said is what that turned into was a distraction and kind of an expensive one. Like we paid for a year in advance, so it was not super cheap. And it just ended up by the middle of the year, I had completely abandoned it and was not even using it at all.
I wasn't even using it either. But so we just go back to Google Calendars.
I mean, yeah, then we go back to like Google Calendars and like our paper notebooks
just
and like my calendar on the wall, because that's where to-do lists work for me best, right?
So that may not work for you, but we're Gen Xers. I mean, like some of us, we operate with both one foot in the digital world and one foot out. Like this is kind of the way we work.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of funny because there are things like that I do use, like Apple reminders and notes and stuff like that, like different calendar things to remind me of certain things, but certain other things I need something different. So I have an e-ink notebook that I use from time to time too as my digital, as kind of my checklist, but it's still a notebook. It's still things that are handwritten down, and it's still a notebook that I made a list on, because there's something about in your brain that when you write something down like that and put a checkbox next to it, your brain says that's something we need to do.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Depending upon your brain. So you may be able to go 100% digital with some of these. You may not be able to.
Right.
Okay. But that's fine. And like I say, a lot of it, you can use AI or not use AI. That is also fine. But you just need some place where you can find all the information about your books and series and all that kind of stuff, and you can keep all of it straight in your brain. Now, I mean, and you may say, well, I only have 1 book or I only have 2 books. That's awesome for now. But I hope you have a plan as a career to write more books, and you can be like Vince, or like, where he's got 100 and some books, 130 books or 140 books or whatever it is.
Spectacular.
And, tons of short stories. And like, we got tons of short stories. I've got somebody counted up my Amazon things the other day that had my name associated with them. They're like 70 some,
Oh,
whatever,
it's
you know.
fantastic.
And I'm like, that's awesome. But you think I can keep all of that straight? No, I
No.
cannot. So, I mean, I'm not even trying to. So that's why you have that central repository of your information. And I mean, to be fair, like I stole parts of this list from Steph Pajonas, who
Yeah,
talks about AI a lot. And what she talked about
we'll
was that
reference her article
you
in our
need to
description.
limit your
Yeah.
the number of tools that you're using
Hmm.
be for a number of reasons.
That's
Okay,
why I
so
stick with the three.
yeah,
Like, so I've got
and
the
I'm
word
gonna make
processor, the notes, and then the third one, I'll tell you backup. Like you need your backup.
oh
But
yeah, you need your yeah.
but we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, go ahead and go through
Okay,
your limit
so
tools.
one more thing. So I'm gonna touch on AI real quick. If you're an anti-AI person, pretend I never spoke. Um, and just fast forward
Just
like
fast
three
forward.
minutes or whatever. But so one of the things that she talked about that I have found to be quite true is that you pick a certain chat tool if you're going to
Mhm.
use AI, a certain model and a certain tool,
Generative
right?
tool. Yeah.
Generative tool, right?
Mhm.
Especially the chat interface.
Yeah.
Okay, when you're using it for automations, that's a little bit different. That's a whole other topic for another time.
We're not going to get there.
Um, and we're not going to even get into automations at all, but you can automate some of your processes.
Yeah.
But for the chat window thing where you're using AI to do research, to brainstorm, whatever the case may be, right? Use a single chat tool and stick with it. And the reason is that chat tool learns about you and your
Hmm.
style of writing and the kind of answers that you want and the kind of questions that you're asking and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So when you switch to another tool, you say that tool is really dumb. The reason it's really dumb is it doesn't
It
know
doesn't know
anything about
you.
you because you haven't taught it yet. And it takes about a month to teach the tool about you. So if you decide, I'm not using Chat GPT anymore, I'm going to use Gemini, and you pop over there and switch, then Gemini is going to seem really dumb for like a month.
Hmm.
So you're wasting a month of time retraining a tool when you've already got one that works
That's
because they
kind of the
all work about the same.
that's kind of the thing about this whole thing too about overwhelm as well that I mean this is where this fits in but let me rewind just a little bit backup that's like your hard drives that's your like people will buy like
Mm.
iCloud, they'll buy the cloud, they'll buy the Microsoft cloud, they'll buy different,
Dropbox.
yeah, Dropbox, they'll buy, those are your cloud drives. And I will say, I used to be kind of like, oh no, you need a disk, you need a thumb drive. Well, the thing is,
Yeah.
guys, I need you to understand something that I mean, some of you are kind of like maybe if you're an old timer like me, and you kind of need to change the way you're thinking about this. And the reason is because let me tell you a story. My aunt, she lived in California in Thousand Oaks during a couple years ago when there was the big fire in Thousand Oaks, and she was evacuated from her house. Her house that she lived in for the last I don't know, she'd been there for at least 20 to 30 years. Like this house was like her kids had been raised in it. It was beautiful. Had all her photo albums in it. It was just beautiful. At the time, she's a widow and she had a beautiful, I love this woman, by the way, roommate who just no nonsense. She's like no attitude. Like her attitude is like, girl, get on board with this. She's just and very, very smart. Well, when they had to evacuate, Colleen, my aunt, was panicking because she had years of photos and the kids' certificates and the memories. Like she was just like, what
Mhm.
do I take with me?
What
Like
do I
my
do? How do
mother,
I get this out of the
her
house?
dead
Yeah.
mother's stuff was there, like just she was just like panicking, right? Her dead husband, whom she will never stop loving tremendously, all his stuff was there, like she was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? Well, the most important thing that she was like worried about were these photos where like her husband's image was, right, and all of her kids. And so she was like and her roommate was just like, girl, Like, why isn't all that stuff just saved in the cloud? You know, like, and my aunt was like, what are you talking about? Like, and she's like,
Yeah.
gotta have all that saved in the cloud. We're out of here. Like, she was like, we're getting out of here before we burn to ashes, you know. And my poor aunt, like, it was a very big learning, you know, curve for her because luckily her house was saved and she didn't lose her stuff. But when she came back to her house, she started scanning all her photos
Oh, yeah.
and learning like how to do all that because of the value in that. So that's the same thing with your manuscript and your words. You can put it on your hard drive and you can put it on your, you know, like I have like you guys can't see it. I have 5 external drives right here attached to my computer, right? Like I have little things like that. I have a 4 terabyte, 2 terabyte. Like I have all these little terabyte discs that I keep everything, like all of these videos that Troy and I have. Like once we're done processing them and they're all done, I put them on that hard drive. And then like my manuscripts, when my clients are done with their work, I save all of that work onto a hard drive that is separate from my computer and it's encrypted and kept safe. If I were to lose, if I had to go into a fire, this would be like the most important thing that I would grab. However, the work that I'm currently working on, the stuff that I have that I'm sharing with clients back and forth, that's all saved in my cloud. And the reason is because that is a way that I can make sure the most recent current stuff is right there, handy. And when my clients are, you know, when we're done with the project, they get everything that I have as far as like all the most recent files that were generated, everything. They get all those copies. So like there's copies everywhere. But the thing is that you need a backup. You need a backup. So that can be, like I said, these thumb drives or whatever, but just make sure they're in a place that you can get them quick and easy and that they're not, that they don't get lost because all of that stuff is very, very, very valuable.
There's another aspect of that too. Well, first of all, I have a story about that. But the other aspect of saving things in the cloud is that you can do what's called data migration. And because what we've seen over the years is that formats change. So there are some novels that I wrote in college that the last time I saw them, they were on a 3.5-inch disc. And for those of you who don't know, that is the save emblem 3D printed. Oh
man, we are really aging ourselves today.
I'm just owning it. I'm just owning it. But yeah. And they were in that WordPerfect 5 format. Now, as far as I know, even if I found those discs and they were still readable, I would not be able
wouldn't be able to open
transfer that from that format to a modern format.
Right.
So digital migration as new versions of programs come out is really super important.
Really important.
Right. Super important. So if you have things in the cloud, you can do that in bulk, in wholesale.
Yeah.
If you do not, it is going to be super challenging. But I have a story for you. So I had a client of mine that I was editing her work in like 2017.
Oh yeah.
And she lost her couple of her computers, lost her novel, couldn't find it anywhere in her cloud or anywhere else. So she reached out to me and she said, "Is there any chance that you still have the latest files that you had in 2017 of my novel?" And I did. And was able to send them to her. Now, because I have archives, like archive folders that are just zip versions of everything.
Yep, that's what I have.
And if I know about when it was, I can go find it. Okay.
Right.
So those backups are really important because in that case, she was able to look at that old version of her book and go, okay, now this is where I want to go with this in a more modern context.
Yeah.
Right? But she still had it. So having a backup is super, super important. Now, when you move from the writing process and move into the business of writing, there are other.
Okay. Yeah.
we can move into revision sometime. So I like to revise in a different program than the one that I write in. That is because it's a psychological thing for me. If I write in that program, that's the only thing I want to do in that program. I want to revise in a different program because it's a psychological trick for my muse. You may
Right.
not need to do that. If not, I don't care. But in the revision process, you can often use the same software that you're writing in or another adjacent software. Like I always recommend Word, simply because it's the industry standard for editors. So if you revise it in that program, then when your editor gets it, it's at least already in the right program, if not the right format, and they can help you with the formatting and fix that and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So generally speaking, so don't worry about that. And that's the beauty of some of these things, is like you can plan, write, and edit in the same software.
Same software.
Now, in the revision process, I will tell you this, that generally speaking, modern times, you should have a grammar checker of some sort, grammar and spell checker of some sort, that also checks your writing. There's no reason for it not to at this particular point. So there are programs like Pro Writing Aid or Grammarly, because I will tell you that the built-in editor in Word, even with their new Copilot edition, sucks. So don't use it, right? It just doesn't. It will almost always miss a large majority of issues in your manuscript.
Are you talking about
right?
Pro Writing Aid?
Pro Writing Aid?
Are you? Because I was going to say Pro Writing Aid calls out every single stinking passive phrase in your entire book, and oftentimes it's not correctly
you
calling
don't
it
want
out.
to fix it. Okay.
You don't want to fix it.
So I'll just pause here for one of Troy's pet peeves and go on a tiny little rant.
Oh dear, here we go. Rant warning. Rant warning.
Little sirens. Put some sirens in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. But anyway, so the problem with every grammar checker and every writing evaluator, every editing service out there,
right,
that is software based, every single one of them, you need knowledge to go with that editing software. So people are telling you, well, I can redo my whole book by using Fictionary or AutoCrit or Pro Writing Aid or whatever their tool of choice at the moment is, which all of those tools are good. None of them are a terrible choice, provided that you have the knowledge to go with it. Because, like, here's the thing, like this client that I'm working with, helping her with a guided revision, right? There were a couple of pretty major problems with her chapter 1. You know how we fixed it? 2 paragraphs. She could have rewritten the whole chapter, but instead, between the two of us, we had enough knowledge that we could put our heads together and come up with a simple solution to what would at first appear to be a complex problem. If she had just rewritten that whole chapter and scrapped everything she already had, she probably would have written the story out of it and then written in new problems.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's,
instead of doing that, we're just only going to fix, because fixing that one thing also fixed 3 things that were further chapters further down. Because now that foreshadowed what was going to happen in that chapter. So what happened in that later chapter didn't just suddenly appear all of a sudden, because we hinted at it in chapter 1.
Yeah.
It fixed those few things we did in chapter 1 fixed a myriad of problems in the rest of the manuscript. Now, when we go into chapter 2, we do the exact same thing. We fix minor things that fix the whole manuscript. If you go through the list that Pro Writing Aid or whatever gives you of problems in your manuscript, and you try to fix all of those problems, you're going to create more problems, because sometimes if you fix 3 small problems out of that huge list, it fixes all the rest of them.
Right.
So you need knowledge to go with that software. You need to know that sometimes, even though we tell you not to use passive voice, that sometimes passive voice is okay.
Well, and sometimes if
especially
it's
in dialogue,
like that's the thing. Like you can't just fix it all the time.
Well, and here's the thing. So writing is about thinking and feeling. That's what reading is about too. right? In order for your reader to think about what you're writing, you need to give them a moment of respite, right?
Right.
If you are just constantly hitting them in the face throughout the whole book with just action after action after action, yeah, hey, maybe they will read until 2 a.m. until they close that last page, but they won't have felt anything or thought about anything except for their heart racing out of their chests the entire time. Now, while that's cool, kind of, if every, like, I just got done reading Vincent Zandri's The Hitchhiker, right?
Oh,
Just
okay.
finished it. Okay. And there are emotional parts in there, emotional beats in there that he very skillfully, because he's a skilled writer, makes the reader rest with that moment,
Right.
right? Why? Because we want them to think about it for a sec. We don't want to zoom into the next scene without giving them a moment to think and feel and connect with those characters so they actually care what happens in the next scene,
Right.
right? So passive voice sometimes, it's another rant. Passive voice sometimes allows your reader, just gives them a moment of
Right.
reflection, a moment of rest, a moment of respite, right? Anyway, so but you need to know where those belong and where they don't.
Right.
Right. So you can't just go through with Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid and accept every correction it makes, because you will tear the life out of your story.
Not only that, it makes it so generic. It takes
Hmm.
it's so generic. Um, okay.
Yeah.
So just really
So
quick.
yes,
So
yes.
I'll just move into my next like little question or test for your tool overwhelm. Basically, what I wanted to say with that last one, the 3 tool one, is if you can't name your 3 tools and you actually name way more than those 3 tools, or if you've got like multiples, you're like, oh, well, I use this for this. This could explain why you might feel a little overwhelmed with your tools. So just
And
that's your,
unfocused.
yeah. So the 3 tool test. What am I using to write? What am I using to take notes? What am I using to back up? Okay, that's your 3 tool test. The next question that you
Yes.
can ask that kills bad tools. Are you ready for this? What specific problem does this tool solve right now? And this is kind of
Now.
what we were talking about earlier, where we were talking about
Yep.
know thyself, know where you're at in your writing process, know where you're at in your writing career. There's many times where clients will approach me with these very advanced tools, and they are literally just writing their debut novel. It is like, and they are like baby authors, and they're talking about using tools that like Troy uses, or that like, maybe even James Patterson possibly uses to kind of like really kind of organize their, like you said, multiple stages of book writing. That can really overwhelm and frankly make an author feel very insignificant and small when they feel like they can't utilize the tool that it's meant to, you know, I guess solve
Right.
the problem that it solves. Now an author thinks, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to have this, and this figured out, and I don't. When really you shouldn't, because you're only a baby author. Like that's not your
Yeah.
phase. So ask yourself, what specific problem is this tool solving right this second? And if you can't answer that, then that's wrong tool.
Right. And do I have another tool that can already solve this? Right? Do I have another tool that already takes care of this problem? Right? And things like I'll just mention automation. We're not going to go down that road for this particular podcast, but automating tasks in your business means that you need to have an operating, running business, right? I'm not going to recommend that you buy a huge tool that automates your entire author business when your entire author business is still, I'm trying to write at least 1,200 words every day still so I can get this draft done. Well, then there's a lot of stuff we don't need to automate. And there's nothing wrong with getting ahead of yourself and knowing tools that are going to grow with you if they're going to grow with you, but they still need to solve a problem right now. Like your bookkeeping software, you may not need something as advanced as QuickBooks right now, but there's nothing wrong with starting with something small like QuickBooks Self-Employed or their free edition
Or
and using
Square.
that, or
I
Square.
love telling people
Oh,
about
yeah.
Square. Square Up
Or
is
Square,
amazing.
and using it until your business grows to the point where you've outgrown that software, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Um, but I do want to mention one other kind of software. And it's not well, it's not really a kind of software, but it's a there's two things that authors need that they skip a lot of times. And because this is a very solitary thing to do, or at least it feels like it initially, is connection and community. So in some cases, that's a software. Like that is a certain social media platform where your peers hang out in a group where you can communicate with them. Sometimes it's a separate software from social media, but it's an own community software. Fictionary has their own community. Autocrit has their own community. They've got these communities that they built. Pro Writing Aid has their community where you can hang out with your peers, right? And talk with them and connect with them and work through issues and things like that. Author Nation has a year-long community thing that outside of the conference itself that they run every year.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's a part of that. But I'm going to encourage you to get out of the house. And I need to listen to my own advice
Yeah.
and do this more often myself. But get out of the house and connect with people and
Right.
communicate with them and have physical contact with them, go to
Mhm.
conferences, have a group that meets even for coffee once a month
Have a
or
coffee
something
talk.
like that.
Have a coffee.
Yeah,
Have a
coffee talk.
coffee talk.
Coffee. Have a coffee talk over here. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like you need connection and community. And part of that is so that when it comes to things like this, you can get practical, real life advice from people who are doing it,
I will
who
also say
know,
this because this is always my go-to, right? Like I've always told my clients, get a community, get a group, get a club, create the club. If you have to, like, if you have
yeah.
to do what you have to do, right? I will say though, I recently had a friend, she's a friend, contact me. She, first of all, she didn't know that we were, that I had a publishing company, that she didn't know. Like, she didn't know that this is what my gig was, because the last time we talked was about 14 years ago. So it's been a while.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Been a minute.
anyway, so somehow I showed up in her algorithm. Somehow, like miraculously, she's like, "Oh yeah, Stace," and um she writes books. She's like written 12 or so books, and she was part of a like kind of a critique group where they got together and they would critique each other's books. And unfortunately, that critique group kind of burned her out. She said that um well, I'll just leave it at this. She just said that they burned her out. Like they sent her
Hmm.
on a direction where she kind of just stopped doing the things that she really enjoyed, and she was doing things she just didn't care about or feel passionate about. And
Hmm.
so she kind of fell out of practice of getting into that happy space and writing. So she and I had a nice conversation where I was kind of like trying to reignite that fire, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm going to tell her, okay, you know what? Actually, now it's just you and me. We're gonna stay locked into our bedrooms.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about I'm gonna try to encourage her once she starts to feel like this fire is lit in her again. I'm gonna tell her, go find another group. Go find another group,
Hmm.
because it's important. It actually helps you continue to feel like you said, Troy, that sense of community and belonging. I think that's something that we crave as humans in this world right now. I think
Hmm.
this is something and which is why when we scroll and we're like, we get that
The
sense of
doom scroll, the
outrage
death
every time we
scroll.
get, like, outraged every time something,
Oh,
like the media is really good at like helping you feel like, well, if you're mad about this, then you're part of this group, and it makes you feel like you belong. But what it also does, it kind of
hmm.
isolates you from understanding and knowing the beauty of being with people that that actually think the same way you do, or like whatever. So what I'm trying to say is get out of that shell. Like Troy said, it's always good to like join that community because you can learn and grow from people that have done it before,
Yes.
or that you can teach. Because when you're teaching, same thing. When you teach, you learn. So it's good for you to get out there and talk to people.
Well, and let me so we probably should do another podcast just about community and finding your tribe.
We should.
Right? That type of thing. Because it is really challenging to find the right people. But I will say, like a couple of weeks ago, Stacey and I got wound up, and we're going to talk about this topic later anyway. But we got wound up in this discussion with a bunch of people about
amazing people, by the way, just amazing people.
And amazing people.
Yeah.
But largely about Amazon and what they're allowed to do in relation to authors and our intellectual property, and whether they should be allowed to do that or not, and what we should do about it if they're not. And there were several people that I know of, and I've talked to since pretty extensively, who have said, I am pulling my books from Amazon and I will no longer sell on Amazon because of this thing. And there are people that have done it for other reasons already. This is already a movement that's happening.
Yeah, it is kind of.
And there are readers that are moving away from Amazon and buying things in
By
other
the way,
places.
we're not telling you to do that.
And I'm not telling you to do that at all.
We're not telling you to do that.
What I am saying is that someone in that community, in that particular group, said, it is almost impossible for an author today to make a living outside of Amazon, and anybody who does it is an outlier and a rare exception to the rule. So what did I do? I went to another community and talked to some of those people. And a large percentage of those people are making a living without Amazon. So I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not telling you to try that, because it is a complicated thing.
There's a process to that.
It involves some business decisions and things like that.
Very distinct.
But there is a whole group of people who, instead of making 80% of their income from Amazon, are making 80% or more of their income from other sources.
Okay.
So just because someone in a certain community tells you something that does not resonate with you does not mean
that you're alone.
You're alone, and that you cannot find a community of people who think
that's true
and agree with you and your process.
Exactly.
And this isn't always about finding a writer's group that does the same genre as you, although sometimes that can be
very
helpful. But it's people who have the same mindset that you do, and the same thought process about writing, and the same, a similar work ethic. I was in a critique group for a long time. I left for two reasons. First of all, one of the people in that group was a sensitivity reader for certain groups and was completely oversensitive to groups even that she was not a part of. And so you couldn't put any book out there, even in this rough draft form where you're running it through a critique group, without severe critique of how you were writing specific characters. That was not helpful for new writers. It turned new writers that came into the group off of writing the things that they loved. Not useful, not going to be there for it. But the other part of it is there were a number of people in that group who did not share the same work ethic. So when it was their turn to submit, they would have nothing to submit. They would be happy to critique everybody else's, but they had nothing to submit, and there was no pressure you could exert on them to do so. So I left the group, right? Because that's not how I run my author career. That's not how I do it. So I can't hang out with that group of people as much as I like some of them. I had to move to different communities and different critique groups that more fit my work ethic, who I am, and what I do, right? So just be aware that finding your tribe and your community doesn't mean stopping in one place and going, these people seem pretty cool, and then agreeing with everything that they say, because that's probably not going to get you where you want to go. Anyway,
that's true. So, then, okay, so then that's just kind of the long and short of that whole thing, but it is a tool, I would say, and and just as a rule of thumb, be aware that when you're in those writing groups and those communities, there's going to be like this There's going to be like, I use this, I use this, I use this. Know thyself, know who you are, say, okay, that might work for you, but maybe it won't work for me. But, then again, if you're open to it at the time and it's a good time to do that, then you can evaluate it at that time. But if it's going to stop you or stunt you from being able to move forward in your writing process at that moment, I'm going to say put the pin in it and just look at it later. Stay focused. So I'm going to wrap this podcast up with a few permissions. I'm gonna, and then Troy, you can add to them. Are you ready?
I'm gonna wait for yours, and I've got a couple of little tiny things.
Okay, good. I'm gonna give you some permission, but here's first permission. I'm giving you permission to quit tools that do not work. I'm giving you permission to go ahead and cancel subscriptions. It was one of the funniest things that people do right now. The businesses, they have a purpose. I get it, that I know what they're doing, but there is a thing called subscriptions and cancellation policies, and they are meant to scare you into staying locked into these contracts, right? So good example of I know.
Pardon me.
Right. So
pardon me. Allergies.
Yeah,
horrible air quality today. Horrible.
So one time, like I have a bug service, right? Because I hate spiders. But anyway, I have a bug service, and what's so funny is that I've been through numerous bug services. Either they don't show up when they're supposed to, or they show up too much. One or the other. I have terrible luck with these people. But anyway, this particular bug service that I have right now, they're constantly texting me like, "Oh, we're going to be in the area. Do you want us to come by?" And last month I was going out of town, and I did not want the bug service coming while my house sitter was here, because one, I didn't want her have to worry about some strange person needing to get access to the backyard. And I did I did not want that.
It's not
a good time. So I just told them, look, I don't want you coming. This is like the tactics that they used were next level. They were like, but you're in a contract and you can't push this out any further because you haven't had the service since September. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you can't come until I come back into town. That's just there's no negotiation around this. And they're like, well, you're in a contract. And I immediately said, whoa, 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 whoa. If you guys put me in a contract when you signed me up and said you weren't going to put me in a contract, I need to see that contract. Well, it's in your email. Okay, email it to me again. They wouldn't. And then I turned around and I said, listen, what's your cancellation policy? I'll cancel that contract right now. And they're saying, well, wait, we don't want you to cancel. No, you don't. But there is a cancellation policy for any kind of contract that you guys are locked into. I need you to understand this. So even if you're locked in it, or if you paid for something for a year and you're like, crap, I paid for this, I'm going to have to stick in it. Just cancel the damn thing, pay the little fee, whatever it takes. It's going to save you more money and more time just to erase it from your history and your brain than to have to sit there and think about it for the next, like with Troy and I and that stupid calendaring thing last year. We just took the loss. Yeah. We took the loss.
Yeah, we just canceled it. No, so we didn't get any refund, and you won't always get a refund.
Yeah, you won't get a refund.
But the problem is, so let me use a quick example.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to name some names. I'm not saying any of these programs are good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
You make your own choices, right? But I know people that have a subscription to Marlowe, Pictionary, AutoCrit, Pro Writing Aid.
Oh my goodness.
And other software, right?
Right.
So they have 4 different software that essentially do the same thing. The primary difference in those is which interface you're comfortable with and which information you like that they give you back the best.
Mm-hmm.
All of them give you certain types of manuscript feedback. All of them have AI features, in some cases that you can turn off, in other cases that you cannot, right? All of them have very similar things. If you have a subscription to all 4 of these things, go today and cancel it down to 1. Pick your favorite.
Pick one.
Pick one and cancel the others. And I'm not saying this because those companies thrive on people that subscribe to all of them
and then
only use 1 or maybe 2 of them. because they will keep charging you, right?
They're not
And
going to
that's
tell you.
good for their business. It's not good for yours.
Right.
Right. Become very proficient with a single tool that does the things that you need it to do.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
There are times when I have subscriptions to more than one because for specific reasons.
Or maybe you have a specific project, like one project, like, okay, but at the end of the project, cancel it or downgrade the subscription, right? And that's the other permission. I'm giving you permission to either cancel or downgrade your subscription. You can downgrade and you can upgrade and you can downgrade and you can upgrade.
I'll be specific about one more software. And that's the one that I sneezed a few moments ago, Adobe. Most writers, Stacey and I are in this program and stuff all the time. And frankly, we hate it. I am trying to find a way. I'm trying Affinity and all kinds of different programs to try to get away from Adobe.
I'm gonna be in there.
Because I do not like it, and I don't like paying $70 a month for it. Okay. But what you can do if you're a normal author, you don't need that.
When you're an author, you don't need
12 months out of the year. So if you need it for a little bit to create some graphics for yourself, which you don't need because you can use Canva or BookBrush or whatever. But
there's other free.
And that's another one where you should pick one of those that you like the best and stick with that one because they both do the same thing. But anyway, but Adobe in particular, like if you need an advanced editor like that or advanced InDesign to complete your project or to create some specific graphics for your social media, and that's where you want to create them is in Photoshop, subscribe for a month. Do everything you need to do for that book and the launch, and then cancel it. You do not have to have a yearly contract with Adobe to use Adobe. Use it when you need it.
I'll tell you what.
Some of these programs too, use it for a project and then cancel your subscription and resubscribe. And they'll try to scare you. Your files will be lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what?
Yeah.
You know,
because you usually download them and keep them anyway. But the thing about Adobe, like, and I will say this, it's one of those things that it's very advanced for specific reasons. And like I said, when you like, if you think you need it because you want to use InDesign because you've heard InDesign is the best software for formatting a book, I will tell you, even I don't use InDesign. And I know how to use it. And I don't use it. So the reason is because it's easier for me to hire my go-to favorite person in the world with book formatting when I have complicated projects like that. It's easier for me to hire Tara at T-Berry Studios. I'm totally plugging her right now. T-Berry Creative. She's amazing. If you ever need anybody for a very complicated project, she your gal. But yeah, she is like hands down, when I can't do it in Vellum for my clients and I need to do something more complicated, it's cheaper and easier for me to hire Tara than it is for me to go into InDesign and learn how to do that very complicated thing for that client. So just know that you don't always have to have a subscription. Sometimes you can just find a pro that you can hire to do that one project, and it might be cheaper and easier for you. It's
cheaper than your subscription.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way. I know how to use InDesign. I've done very complicated designs in InDesign. I do not do that. When I do them,
it takes a long time.
Yeah, that's a premium service I charge a lot of money for because it takes a tremendous amount of time.
A lot of time.
Now, and
Tara could do it like
cheaper,
this, but she's in there all day long.
It probably is cheaper to hire somebody like Tara to do things like that simply because it's going to cost you less in the long run than having this long-term subscription to Adobe.
Yeah,
Adobe's, what, $900 a year? Or
I pay $863 a year for Adobe. Now, I said, the thing that I do, and one of the reasons why I can't get away from it is because 1, I use it for my contracts. 2, I use Photoshop. 3, I love the Adobe Firefly. 4, I edit Adobe. I edit PDFs all day long, all the time. And so, all those things are inside that subscription. But clients of mine who come on and say, I want this system, or I want this book to look this certain way, I'm not going to tell them to go get Adobe. That is the biggest waste of money and time. No way. No. The learning curve on it is way too high. So then again, like I said, you don't have to have subscriptions for things just because you are using it sporadically. like,
Mhm.
and I mean
Well, there
sporadic.
are programs like BookBrush and Canva and stuff
Yeah,
like that
I
that have
love
great
Canva.
templates that if you're
It's
not a
free.
graphic designer anyway, you can go and use their program. You can use Canva for free. If you decide you need the pro features, it's only $15 a month,
Yep.
and use them for a month and then
And then
cancel them when you
cancel.
don't need them
Yeah,
anymore. Or
exactly.
pay for, something like BookBrush for the year that's like under $100 for a year. You're not paying thousands of dollars for this thing. So for most authors, you don't need some of the software that people are pitching to you. So you pick one of a certain kind of software. And I don't care whether you like Canva or BookBrush. I'm just saying you don't need both.
Yeah, you don't need both.
Like for the most part, you don't need both. If you become proficient in editing in Figma or Affinity or something like that, you don't necessarily need Photoshop unless you particularly need that
Right.
power.
So that leads into my
So there
next
are
thing.
alternatives.
This is my
Anyway,
next
yeah.
thing, my next rule.
Oh
Are you
yeah.
ready? My next
Sorry, we're
permission?
getting
No,
yeah.
no, no. This is good. My next permission, though, you hit on it, is you have permission to be boring. So remember my little story about the confetti? Like, I
Mhm.
literally found out that like spending all the money and time and effort to learn how to do that was not worth it, because my clients they just needed a way to ingest the information that I was feeding them.
Mhm.
They didn't need me to have the confetti. And so I gave myself permission to be boring in that instance, right? And that's a
Mhm.
very like kind of animated way of like explaining this, but it's okay if you don't know how to do the big animated, book trailer. You can be boring. You can just put up a slideshow at first and use Canva, like Troy said, or you can just put up a graphic that is just using a free, software. Maybe you're just putting up using the Instagram editing software, like you just whatever. Just know and be okay with that this is where you are at. And if you want to advance that later, you can, but again, stop and ask yourself, is this going to stop me from doing what I'm doing right now, what I need to do right now?
Mhm.
That's your question. And then, oh, this is the Troy one. This is like Troy's. Do less and do it well. And this kind of like harkens
Yes.
back to the day when Kristen Iris like taught me a very valuable lesson. And that is, Stacey, you can't do it all. You have to niche. You have to come in here and do less,
Mhm.
and do less and do it well. And that's one of the reasons why Troy and I have partnered up, is because there are things that I do really, really well. And there's things that Troy does really, really well. I don't have to do everything that Troy does. And Troy doesn't have to do everything that I do, because we both do things together really, really well. And we can lean on each other for these strengths. The same thing applies to you. When you join these groups and these networks of people and writers and the professionals that you can bring into your systems and that you can help and like network with, you can then also do less and do what you do well. And so lean on the professionals to do things like the editing, lean on professionals to do things like the formatting, lean on professionals to do your cover design. You don't have to know how to do all of that. You don't have to know how to do all those little ins and outs of
Mhm.
Print-to-Pro, that I teach in Print-to-Pro, all those editing little tasks. I teach the basics so that when you can lean on me, I can then go, okay, you have the foundational knowledge. Do you have these accounts? Yes. Okay, let's set that up. And then that way you don't have to worry about all the changes that happened in Amazon last week, because you know that Stacey does. And
Right.
it's the same thing. So just know that it's okay. You have permission to kind of niche in and kind of do what you do well, and leave the rest to kind of be picked up by these
Yes.
professionals that you can bring into your solar system, and know that you can rely on them when you need them. So
Yep.
those are your
My
permissions.
And here's my one last thing, and I say this about any software, and I've said it when I have worked for software companies
Mm-hmm.
and introduced people to the software. I'm like, anything that stops you from writing, get rid of it.
Yes.
That means if it's a distraction and it destroys your focus, get rid of it. If it causes you to be overwhelmed so you can't concentrate on the writing part of your career, get
Get
rid of
rid of
it.
it.
Because the thing that matters in marketing and everything else is writing the next book and continuing to write
Mhm.
good books. So you need that craft foundation and writing great books. But if that craft course is going to distract you from writing your draft right now rather than helping you write the draft right now, then take it later
Yeah.
and get better at that later.
Later.
Use all
Mhm.
the tools that you've got now to finish writing and to continue writing.
Right.
Okay. And I'll use an example. So like we had a course that CJ and I did together
Oh yeah.
on Story Genius,
Mm-hmm.
right? One of the reasons we encouraged people to take that course was we encouraged you to work on your current draft during the course using the tools that we're using to create the course. It's the same
Cool.
thing when my Plot Dude's Guide to Story. My encouragement to you is to use the course to complete the draft you are working on right now.
Perfect. Yes.
Because I don't want you to stop writing to take the course.
Yeah, and
No,
that's very much
that's
like print
not
to
the
pro.
purpose.
Yeah, like
That's
when I
not the purpose.
Imprint Academy,
You
same
know?
thing. You're working while you're taking that. Like you're moving forward.
Yeah.
So
Keep
yes,
moving.
keep moving,
Yeah.
move forward. I love it. I think that's very
Yeah.
valuable in terms of
Anything that
like
stops you in
anything
your
that slows you
tracks,
down.
get rid of it
Yeah.
because like people can talk to you all day about automation and scaling and all kinds of just these crazy things that you can do with software. But the truth is this, if you're not writing and putting out new material, none of that matters.
Right.
Not a thing.
Right.
So stop it.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Stop. Yeah,
Anyway.
exactly. I agree. So that's the amazing part about this, right? Is just making sure that you understand and know thyself, know and understand your where you're at in your writing journey at this moment. And then again, finding out and making sure that your tools are not stopping you from continuing to be that creative that you are on this whole journey for in the first place. So yeah, very, very good. Okay. Well,
Yes.
I am so grateful we talked about this. We will definitely be talking about the community. I think that would be a really great one next week. We also
Mhm.
have some amazing guests coming up in the coming weeks. We're talking to Brad Fraser later in February, and we're talking to you brought on somebody that we're talking to.
Angela Hoy, who
Angela.
is
Yeah.
she has been in the industry for well over 20 years. She is a part of Writers Weekly, and also a part of a publisher that I cannot remember right now. But it is a great publisher. They offer a lot of author services as well as doing more traditional publishing. She's been in the industry a long time. Yeah, actually, her and a group of other publishers sued Amazon in 2008 and won. It was
Fabulous.
kind of an interesting thing. So, and there's obviously more other
More
things
to
going
that.
on now. So
Yeah.
she's going to talk to us about some of those stuff. Some of the other things she does is on her Facebook page, she exposes scammers
Oh.
that contact you. Along with like sometimes she plays around with those romance scammers too that come into your DMs and stuff like that. And it is freaking funny.
That
I
is
love
funny.
playing around with them myself. So I'm thinking I should probably put that on YouTube or something. Because some of them are pretty awesome. They're
That's
they're
awesome.
they're pretty fun to fool around. But anyway, but she does all those things. So she's watching out for author scams. She's watching what Amazon is doing with their terms of service and things like that,
Very
especially as
cool.
AI things evolve. So super sharp person. Then of course we got Bradley Fraser, who's our
IP and copyright
go-to
attorney.
IP and copyright attorney, and we're going to talk to him specifically about the
AI.
KDP clause 5.5, which is your
Hmm.
grant of rights to Amazon, and how that applies to Amazon's new features they're trying to apply with AI within the Kindle app, and whether that's actually copyright infringement or not, which a lot of people say it is, a lot of people say it isn't. We'll
We'll ask the
defer to an
pro.
attorney who's
We'll
been
ask
doing
the
it for 30
attorney.
years.
Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go.
So
So,
fabulous. And also just as another aside as well, Troy and I are teaching monthly, really in-depth classes on craft and business. Troy's this month is on motivational characters or motivating what is
Character motivation.
Character motivation. And mine is on building your brand and making it so that it can sell books, right? So building a brand that sells. So you can get my class on the February 19th, and Troy's is going to be the following week, which is like
I believe it's the 24th
yeah,
month.
I think it's the 24th.
Something
so
like
anyway,
that.
he does his on Tuesdays. I do mine on Thursdays. So it's just, anyway, you can go to printtopro.com. You can find those registration links there. I will also put them in the description below. And remember that we're here to help authors succeed. So we also have our respective, he has a Plot Dude guide to story, and I have Imprint Academy to help you on the craft and the business of your book publishing journey. So we are definitely here to help you. You can find us at printtopro.com. Troy is going to be at LTUE next week. So if you're in Utah, go over and say hello to Troy over at LTUE.
There is a Friday night reader event that's open to the public. So even if you don't want to come and buy my books, but I'd love it if you did. If you want to just stop by and say hi and buy me a drink in the bar,
or bring him some chocolate.
Yeah, exactly. One of the greatest bartenders alive actually works at that hotel.
Fabulous.
In Utah. Remembers my drink from year to year. Like I see him once a year, and he remembers who I am, what I drink, what I like. Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous guy.
I love people like that.
So come meet Michael and me and buy me a drink, and everything will be happy.
That's awesome. Well, yeah. So, and we've got some exciting things coming up, but we'll talk about them in the future. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, and keep writing, be kind, stay weird. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, everybody.